All right, welcome back, everyone. This is going to be part two of the Final Watch Veterans podcast on economy and the job market today in the US. So we're going to get started. We left off by talking about COVID before we cut off yesterday's podcast. So we're going to, get started with that. I know COVID's been a struggle for a lot of people. It's something that we never expected to happen. And then just out of the blue, it just popped up and then it shut everything down. So there was a huge change in the economy when that happened. Job market was going down. People were losing their jobs because important jobs that were out there were the only ones that were quote unquote. What was it that they were called, Brandon?
Essen
They were
yeah, essential and
essential jobs.
non-essential, yeah.
Yeah, and I fortunately had an essential job because we made pest control chemicals and we started producing hand sanitizers, cleaning supplies at the job that I had. But in 2019, late 2019, I ended up getting let go because my job was eliminated, and that was due to COVID. So I know it hit pretty hard at home. I'm sure, y'all out there, if it hit y'all, let us know in the comments how it affected you, how that change affected you. Also, guys, before we get started going further, make sure you subscribe to us. We're here on Spotify. We're also broadcasting on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram as well. So make sure you're following us on all platforms and give us a like. All right. I am Mark. I am the VP of IT and securities. And of course, we're here with our CEO founder, Brandon. So welcome in, Brandon.
Yeah, it's, just looking back on COVID, man. So, my story with COVID was I got out of the Marine Corps in August of 2019, so right before everything kinda got crazy, so I was already going through, a transitional period. After serving in the Marines for 10 years, it was a very adjustment. I'll be honest, I've been out for almost 7 years now. It's still an adjustment. But with COVID, like, it really just felt like the extra cherry on top with everything else. I myself, had an essential job. I was a transportation dispatcher at first and actually got promoted to manager during COVID. And the product that we were transporting was frozen meat. So if we all remember all the panic buying, especially like frozen meat products, your chicken, your meat, and, beef products, pork, everything was flying off the shelves. Everybody was stockpiling. Everybody was just buying everything up in the stores. And me and my guys, we were working 24/7 just to try to meet that supply and demand. And it even got to the point where we had to take extra precautions. So my company operated out of Norwalk, California, which is just south of Los Angeles, and there was a lot of civil unrest going on, a lot of rioting, a lot of looting going on during the COVID times because people just hated being, kept
Locked
inside
up.
and being locked up. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and for, that 2-week period where it was like mandatory to where like you had to have work papers if you were going to be leaving your house, other than like to the grocery store and home, like that was it. And even grocery stores had, capacity limitations, like only letting in a certain amount of people at a time because they didn't want to just have everybody in the damn store, doing crowd
I remember
control.
that.
But yeah, doing, during that 2 weeks, and this is kind of funny, Los Angeles, and there's photos of it. You can look them up online too. Like during the 2-week lockdown, the smog and everything that polluted the air in the city of Los Angeles, California was almost non-existent. It was like the first time I personally have ever seen blue sky in it, and the highways were just wide open. So like I would commute from Temecula, California to Los Angeles, which is about an hour and a half drive. Normally with traffic, it only took me like 40 minutes. And I was just
Yeah.
like, holy crap, like,
That
but nobody was on the road. So it kind of was an eye opener of like, wow, there's a lot of non-essential motherfuckers around here.
Yeah, that's how it was here in Houston too, man. Roads were free. They would only let 10 in at a time at like Walmart or like the local grocery store. It impacted a lot of businesses, man. And Gladly, I was fortunate enough to be an essential worker that, we had to have letters if in case we got pulled over, we had to show those letters saying that we were, in that type of job setting to where they would allow us to go to work. We tried the work from home thing for a little while because I was working customer service at the time, but we had to go back to the office, and that's when we had to drive back. And COVID-19 has one of the biggest economic and workforce impacts in the modern U.S. Just in the history of the U.S. It changed a lot of Americans. Their work, their thoughts on their ethics, the way they spent money hiring employees, and even thinking about different careers. And it was a hard hit for us.
Yeah, and I mean, just another thing that's, left out a lot in the media, other than the jobs and stuff, but as a parent, you know, I, as a parent of a disabled child, having to go from, being in school in person and actually having an aide to help him with his schoolwork, or is it not so much help him with his schoolwork, but to help him, get from class to class. My son was born with spina bifida, guys. He's in a wheelchair, a lot of medical needs, etc. And, I know there's other special needs children out there that were forced to learn through a screen like this. And, you know, especially like kids with like autism or any sort of learning disability, many kids struggled and failed. And it was like my son barely passed. I think he was fifth grade when COVID happened, if I remember right. Yeah, he was like fifth grade. And it was just so hard for him to try and stay focused because he would always associate a TV screen or a computer screen with like video games or TV shows. And
Yeah.
now he's having to, actually do work through it at such a very young age. So it
Hmm.
completely, warped his perception of like, wait, I actually have to like do stuff on this other than just for fun. So try explaining that to, an 8-year-old, that's going through this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mark, did you have any experience with that with your kids at all, or know
No, my
anybody that
daughter
went through that?
My daughter was 2 years old at the time, so, fortunately, we didn't go through any of that. My sister, however, her kids, they were still in high school, and, they had to do classes online, they didn't have any classes at the school. They went almost 3 months without any classes or any school activities, so they had to go to school during the summer after they started letting people go back into work, go back into the schools and stuff like that. But the thing is a lot of the schools wanted to force the vaccines on people in order for them to even go back. So I never took the vaccine. I never, I was just that was just my personal choice. But I know a couple people that did take it, and they took the Johnson and Johnson. Two of my friends ended up getting strokes, and three of my friends ended up dying from it. I never took it myself. Being diabetic, my doctor had told me, he's like, well, he goes, if you get COVID, he goes, you got to be very careful being diabetic. He goes, but once you get it, then that's it. If you get over it and you recover from it, which I did. I got COVID for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. I was stuck in bed. I couldn't move. And I beat it, man. I took vitamins. I took zinc, a bunch of vitamin C, D3, vitamin K, and I got over it, man, luckily. But I never took it. They told me I never had to take the vaccine because I already had the antibody in me. So, but yeah, man, it's crazy how economy changes so quickly. From 2019 to 2025, 83% of Americans in today's economy are fighting mental health issues due to the inflation, due to layoffs, cost of living, recession. They're fighting a pretty hard battle right now just because of what happened.
Well, and the one thing that kind of pisses me off too is how, I mean, we should consider it a blessing and a curse, right? Because we live in 2026 where there's all these opportunities to make money or to monetize online or, doing Uber, DoorDash, Uber Eats, there's so many like side hustles now because of COVID. Like, I mean, there was always side hustles like Uber and stuff was well established back then, but a lot of companies pivoted a lot of their business plans to open up opportunities for people to still get a job and work for themselves. You set your hours, you set your pace, so to speak. But now it's getting to the point where it's almost a necessity. It's almost, a have to have a side hustle, to have a secondary job, because the traditional 9 to 5, regardless, and the minimum wage, don't even get me started on that, but regardless of how much money you make, it just feels like the goalpost just keeps getting further and further away. So it's like, and the only advice that most of us even end up getting is work harder, when a lot of people are like yourself, Mark, working that 60, 70 plus hours a week just to pay the damn bills,
Still not making it.
and still not making it. Like, yes, there's so much out there as far as your opportunity to monetize, but a lot of the, especially starting out, it's below minimum wage, even at 7.25, doing these side hustle shit. I mean, I've talked to, and I've done Uber before. I've talked to a couple Uber drivers before that do it full time. Some, if they hustle and grind and stay at it, they can make probably close to 100,000 a year with tips. But if you really look at the, number one, taxes after that, because it's a 1099. Number two, maintenance on your damn vehicle, which labor and parts have only gone up too. So, like, this is just a rough I was gonna say, this is just a rough estimate, but I mean, out of that, so you make $100,000, you're maybe only bringing home like 65 if you include all the gas and maintenance that needs to be done in your vehicle, and after taxes. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Mark?
That's not even in the middle class criteria. I mean, middle class, you're making any, it says middle class is 53,000 to 159,000 statewide. I mean, I make 60,000 and I'm not even considered in the high, like the high middle class. We're considered low middle class, which is a stable paycheck to paycheck, and you're right. I mean, there are other options or other side hustles that you can do, but I noticed that, for one, DoorDash doesn't pay you enough to make a full-time living. You have to work a minimum of 12 hours a day for 7 days a week in order to break $1,000 in a week. That's if you're getting tips and if you're getting the wages that DoorDash pays you, right? Other jobs, like doing social media. I mean, back then, TikTok was paying when it was owned by foreigners. But now that it's owned by a US company that I'm not going to mention, it's, they're taking money out of your hands. They're taking money out of your mouth. This just, they want to make money on the back end. They want you to promote your videos in order for you to make $1, and even us as TikTok shop creators, when we go and try to sell our products and we promote products for our people that we go out there and share the products for, we don't get paid on that product the way that we used to get paid. We don't get our videos pushed as much as our videos used to get pushed before. I went from silver to bronze, and now I don't even qualify for free samples anymore. And it's tough because I have to put out of pocket in order to buy products for me to make a return on investment. But TikTok is telling me that I have to promote that video in order for me to get viewers. And it's not as easy as it used to be. And that's just within, I would say, not even a year. I would say probably the last 8 months, the last 10 months, maybe, since it's changed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really started to cool off, at least for me, in November, because remember, that was like the deadline for the sale to be done, and to make the deal. Otherwise, it was going away. Which, this is gonna be a little rant, but the reality is, we were constantly being told by the media that TikTok is still in your data. They're still in your information. Yada yada yada. Have you been on Facebook lately? Have you been on Instagram lately? Go Google something and then go to your Facebook. You're going to see 10 fucking ads for what you just Googled. And you want to talk about stealing or, looking at your data? Facebook and Instagram and Google have been doing that shit for years. The thing is, at the end of the day, it all comes down to this, guys. It comes down to money. Facebook was like held and Meta held, even still to this day, holds like the social media monopoly. Like they are like you if you look at the numbers, as far as how much money is actually into these companies, Facebook for many years was number one. And now, like merging with Instagram and Snapchat and everything else, it's becoming a monopoly. But here comes TikTok, kind of similar to Vines, but Vines didn't last long. They got taken out after a few years. The reality is TikTok was taking users away from Facebook and Instagram and all that because it was such an ease of access. And rather than scrolling through on Facebook where you might see a few videos, it's mostly just post text and stuff like that. Most people are, visual audio. They want to see a video, they want to hear somebody talk, especially during the COVID times when we didn't have that human interaction. I myself got into TikTok during COVID because we missed that human interaction. And that was so great about the app itself, because you can join a live stream with somebody, have a conversation, not only with the person that's hosting the live, but with people in the chat box as well. And as far as like the opportunities, the networking, like the friendships, me and Mark, we met on TikTok. We haven't met in person yet. We plan to eventually, but the power of that one specific platform was basically a big competitor for those other apps, which is why I think they are the ones that pushed Congress to basically do that TikTok ban.
TikTok
because
ban.
because not only that, people were breaking out of the 9 to 5 box. People were actually being self-sufficient and making their own money and doing the shop affiliate, or just being a content creator, making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year because of a few viral videos. It was upsetting the balance of everything. And I guess the reality is it's all about control. And our government didn't have control of it because it was owned by a foreign entity. And I don't know what kind of backdoor deals happened with this recent merger or taking over. But now that this new company came in, which we won't mention, I think the main reason why they're pushing for all this promote shit and it's becoming pay to play is because they're trying to get a return on their investment that they already had to pay ByteDance and, all the original owners of the app.
Yep. Fun fact. So Facebook generates over $196 billion annually in advertising revenue since 2025. TikTok, check this out. TikTok has generated, within the takeover of the company we're not going to mention, has roughly recovered 77 to 80% of total annual revenue since February of 2026. They're currently making $43.96 billion in US government or US global advertising revenue. Before, in 2025, or from 2019 to 2025, they were averaging 2 billion in 2020, and then 2025 they were making 20.2 billion. So they've increased by $30 billion, no, by $23 billion in what, February to now, 5 months. So there you go, that's where it's at.
Yeah, it's the amount of money in advertising, like, I mean, and that's the reality too. It's like, as shop affiliates and stuff like that, we do get a very small sliver of the pie of the advertisement, money, but, in regards to all the fees too. So one of the more recent things that happened, and we talked about it before the podcast, about how TikTok is now making it mandatory where they become like their own distribution centers, essentially like Amazon, where, especially if you're, the mom and pop shops that are on TikTok are probably going to have to go back to freaking Etsy, because now they have to send their products to a distribution center. That distribution center is going to hold the product, ship it out for you, but you're going to have to pay not only a commission fee, because if you sell a product on TikTok, you're going to be paying 10% to TikTok, period. That's what it is, which is why most affiliate commissions are normally pretty low, especially if you're selling for a smaller company compared to like, one of the multi-million-dollar companies that are out there selling products. So commission fees are going to get cut. Smaller mom and pops are going to get pushed out. And it's literally, I'm just predicting it now, folks. You can call me wrong in the comments or agree with me. I'm predicting that TikTok Shop's just going to become like the next Amazon slash Temu. Because let, let's be honest about some of these products on TikTok. A lot of these products that we get, and I've seen it from the free samples, a lot of these are products that didn't sell on fucking Temu, but they're selling over here because, we all remember Wish, right? Yeah, like these brands. We never even fucking heard of these brands before. They're all companies out of mostly China.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm not saying that they're all bad. I'm not. But a lot of them are either knockoffs or they're, subpar
They're dollar
products.
store quality.
Exactly. Thank you. Like dollar store quality. And which is why a lot of time, you're like, damn, that's an amazing deal. Only $5 or something like that. And it's like, well, technically it'd be only like $1 in Dollar Tree. You know what I mean? But, markup's got to happen. But, just getting into kind of what I said on the previous podcast in regards to like the TikTok shop, like advertising and stuff like that, it's only, stimulating that serotonin effect of instant gratification of like seeing a product in action, seeing it perform a task, solving a problem, and just feeding your impulse buying response. Which, let's be honest, we all been, I don't want to say groomed, but we've all been programmed in a sense since, being on this earth to consume and to
And the
consume
thing too
products.
is now it's instant gratification because everything started with Amazon Prime. Since Amazon Prime came out with 2-day delivery, everything became instant gratification and everybody wants everything right then and there within, a couple hours to a couple days. They can't, they don't have the patience to wait for something. And, a lot of the companies that are in the industry have benefited from it, especially e-commerce companies, delivery services, tech companies that are out there, streaming platforms, another one, online education. All these companies have benefited from instant gratification because it's all at your reach. Hell, when I grew up, I didn't know what fast forwarding through a damn video or a TV show or a streaming show it was. My daughter, she's 8 years old and she goes and watches live TV and she tells me, Daddy, how can I skip the ads? I'm like, they're commercials, they're not ads. I want to go to the restroom, pause the TV. I can't pause the TV. It's regular TV, and it's just like, it's all the new generation that's coming up doesn't know what it's like to wait for something. And I'm sure my generation does that too, right, Brandon? I mean, there's people that are out there that they want us to do these final watch videos within, a 24-hour period when we have hundreds of requests that we have to go through. And I have work, Brandon has work. Brandon has 2 kids at home that he's got to take care of. I got one. And it's just like, we can get to the videos, but it's going to take some time to get to them. And, that instant gratification isn't there for every single thing that's happening. And people don't have patience anymore, and that's what everything that comes down to the economy and to jobs now is that people that go out there and seek jobs, they want an instant answer. I applied for 15 jobs on Sunday and got 8 rejections. My plan is to put in more applications and see how many more rejections I get before I get a yes. And it's just that, a lot of people, I think a lot of people out there now would get depressed for having to wait, and I'm just looking forward to that one yes. It may take me a month, it may take me 2 months, it may take me 2 days, but I know it's coming. It's just that with today's society, it's all about that instant grab, you know?
Well, and with the job market and stuff too, I mean, you can go on Indeed, Monster, ZipRecruiter, your any, application site, and there's thousands of jobs that are hiring. And, me and Mark have experience. We have real world experience, some education, and a lot of these jobs, that we apply for, we try to stay within our realm. But the biggest issue is whether or not your application even gets a freaking look, because of all the AI software, like the resume screening software that they have. Like, if you don't have the keywords that they're looking for, you're not even going to get a look. Prime example of that. So I've tried for ever since I got out of the Marine Corps to get a job back into the government as a civilian employee, working either at the PX even, or working in transportation logistics for the military, anything. In the 7 years that I've been out and the hundreds of applications that I've put in, I've only had two interviews, two, one of which I was actually very excited. I'd be a, civilian log officer for an army base out in Indiana. I actually interviewed with an army major. It went very well, but because I didn't have the specific experience listed in the job application. I mean, even though I did something similar, in the Marines, since it was an army, I got passed over. The only job that I actually had a legitimate job offer was for the VA. It was a low paying, I don't even remember the grade, but it equated to like $16 an hour. And it was to be a custodian at the VA hospital. With all my experience, 10 years being a staff sergeant, building, leading Marines, multiple deployments, multiple years, and being a logistician, the only job that they offered me was to be a janitor. At that same time, I had an offer to work for a logistics company, paying over $75,000 a year. Obviously, I went for the transportation company because $16 an hour, I mean, and this was a couple of years ago, wasn't horrible, but it's not enough to feed a family of four.
Like a
And
punch in the gut, man.
it really is, because having all this experience, and when you're in the military and you actually have, regardless of branch, and you have some rank, you actually have some authority, a sense of purpose, a sense of, influence on how the mission gets done, being a leader, being a coordinator, and then getting out, it makes you feel this fucking small, because the majority of civilians out there, unfortunately, and this has just been my experience, they only value really two things. Number one, your work history, and then number two, your education. They could really care less, what you've really done. It's whether or not, here's the job, here's the description, can you do it? Yes or no. We don't care if, you may have done X, Y, and Z with your past experience. It's become a lot more robotic in a sense, just more mechanical, like just feeling more like a cog in the fucking machine versus a human being, you know, and most companies are trying to cater towards actual career development and investing in their employees, but it feels like it's very few and far between. Most employers now, maybe it's because of COVID, I don't know. From my experience, it's really just, here's the job, can you do it? Yes or no? Okay, next. It feels like the humanity's been taken out of it. At least that's been my experience. What's been yours, Mark?
And it's just, dude, look, so I've had over 20 years of experience working customer service retail. I've had law enforcement experience. I've had over 17 years of experience working as a security officer. I've had experience working at a bank, doing finances. I've had pretty much everything I've done, man. I've been a cook. I've been, cleaning up after people. I've been in management. I've been in, logistics. I've been in everything. I've even worked at a chemical plant, but when I go out and I look for a job and I have a strong resume and I put all that information on there, all my education, everything that I've done, I got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and law enforcement. I have a minor in psychology, child psychology. I have a minor in business management. I put all of that on my application. I show that I have my credentials, all my licenses, everything that I've done, CPR certified, first rescue certified, everything, right? The response that they give me is that I'm overqualified for every position that I've applied for. And it's a kick in the ass, man, because I apply for a job that's paying $35 an hour. And then they tell me that I'm overqualified because they want to pay the minimum. They don't want to pay the $35 an hour that they're offering. And they tell me that I'm overqualified because they're not looking for somebody with my type of qualifications, because they want somebody to learn. What do I do? There's times to where I've actually put in applications that I haven't put all of my qualifications on there. And then they tell me I'm not qualified enough. When I go and, talk to somebody about an interview, it's usually 15 minutes through Zoom because they don't want to do face to face interviews anymore. And when it's through Zoom, I dress up, I'm in a suit, I'm, cleaned up, not scruffy like I am today. And I do my Zoom call and, they tell me, okay, well, this position is commission based. So you can make anywhere from $20 an hour up to $45 an hour because it's 100% commission based. It's based on what you do. I'm looking for a salary. I'm looking, for career. I'm not looking to go out there and, yeah, I can hustle, but I'm not looking to kill myself at the age of 44 for pennies on the dollar and then, feed myself to the wolf pack and, let somebody else that's younger than me that can run circles around me take over and I don't get paid. And it's all about, I can sell myself to pretty much anybody. I can sell ice to an Eskimo, but in today's society, it's more about the physique of a person than their personality and the way that they sell themselves. Unfortunately, that's what it is. I'm not the greatest looking guy in the world. I got a gut on me. But if somebody else comes up, if Bobby comes over there and he works out 7 days a week and he's got a six pack, chiseled chin and everything, he's going to end up getting the sell before I get the sell. And why is that? Because of his presentation. Yeah, I look nice in a suit, but I'm not no, 180-pound kid that's going to be attractive and going to sell Viviant or whatever it is to, Mrs. Thomas over there. And, she's going to get her. No, I'm not going to say it. But you know what I'm saying, man. I mean, it's more physique and it's more about looks nowadays, and that's what's
Well,
crazy about the economy too, man.
I mean, let's be real, sex sells, right?
It does, yeah, yeah.
I mean, not to promote OnlyFans, but it's like, and not to sound sexist at all, but in regards to OnlyFans really only got popular because of COVID. Because let's be real, we are sexual creatures, okay? Other than dolphins, we are the only other species on this planet that has sex for fun. Seriously. And in regards to, during COVID, strippers weren't able to strip at the club. So when they've realized they can do it on camera and actually make more money off of
Mm.
subscriptions, and, our society has truly become shameless in a sense, and
And that's the thing about social media too, man. It's TikTok. That's one thing about TikTok is you got creators that are like you and me out there, and we're working our ass off to try to do something to make an earning, make a living, whatever it is. But then you got something like here, let me see if I could do this right quick. You got stuff like this that's out there.
yeah, because that's an attention
Okay,
gainer
it's
right
food.
there.
I got
Well,
it. It's
but
food, but
that first 2 seconds was the attention gainer.
yeah,
That was the hook.
and that's the hook. And then that's the thing is we can't compete with something like that. Yeah, the food looks good, but what's this? You know what I'm saying? Or, you got stuff like this, you know? I mean, I get it. You're in shape, you're working out, you're doing your thing, but, I'm not gonna get the views that you're getting. And it's like, you got 9,000 views in less than 48 hours on your video because you got the apple right there in front of you or the peach.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna knock somebody for using what they got. I'm not.
I'm not either. I get, hell, for all means, do it if you got it. But, we're struggling because of the fact that we don't have it like that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but it's also just a sad reality of like the world that we live in. I mean, I grew up fairly conservative, okay? In regards to being, I guess, exposed to, what the real world is. You would even say I was probably a sheltered child. A lot of that veil got ripped off when I joined the Marines, I'll tell you that. But, even when I was younger, I mean, don't get me wrong, I look, but in regards to, establishing and maintaining relationships, I mean, shit, stuff like this, it paints a persona of how men, interact with one another And, there's not really any real connection. It's all lustful and all just about, getting as much as you can. So, like, I'll be completely honest. Obviously, I'm not a virgin, but I can count on one hand the amount of women I've been with and only two fingers. In my entire life, I've only been with two women. And my personal reasoning behind that wasn't, and trust me, I wasn't always this fugly looking. I actually was a pretty handsome young man back in the day. Worked out religiously, and if I wanted to be a player, I probably could. But seeing so many relationships, especially amongst my friends and families, be destroyed over that mindset and thinking, and seeing how much it impacted not only them, but their kids, because they would have kids with previous relationships and everything else, they're the ones that suffered the most. And when I got married young. I got married at 19. I married my high school sweetheart. We've been together for over 16 years now. Married 16, but we've been together for over 20. I can tell you that for me personally, being a player and playing the game and going out drinking and going out partying, club dancing and stuff like that, like, it just didn't interest me because, that part of humanity just, for me personally, didn't interest me and kind of found it very unappealing.
Yeah.
It kind of set a bad tone out there. And I'm not knocking anybody that, enjoys, life and trying new things. I'll try new things. But, for me personally, call me a square, call me a snub. I don't even know what you would want to call me, but essentially, the way I look at it is I was blessed and lucky enough to find somebody that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with at such a young age and have children with. And I mean, no marriage is perfect. We fight, we argue, we've never hit each other. I may have broken a few items, while moving stuff or something like that,
Hmm.
little angry outbursts. But in regards to physical altercations or anything like that, like, I grew up with an abusive father who would push around my mom, punch holes in walls, throw clocks, all sorts of stuff. And I'll be honest, I got trauma from it, but seeing all that stuff really just honed me into knowing what kind of man I wanted to be to grow up. And basically I was given a lot of bad examples and basically decided to do the opposite. So, but yeah, I mean, getting back into more of the economy stuff and, you know, people making money off of views and everything else. You were talking about how that job was like commission only. So I've done work as a car salesman. Yes, I was a used car salesman. Classic cliche. There's no such thing as an honest one. I did it for 6 months and I was an honest car salesman. Like, people would call me and be like, oh, that car's so cheap. Well, I'm going to tell you the reason why, because I'm not going to sell you a lemon and have you come back with a baseball bat trying to take my head off. I can say that because I've seen it happen at the dealership, and that's the reality. Like, when you're having to fight for commissions and live off of commissions, like, I think the saddest day I ever saw. So my buddy, his name's Royal, sold the exact same amount of cars as I did. We both sold 7 vehicles for the month because, and a lot of people don't know this, the way they pay car salesmen is based off of draw.
Yeah.
So, like, you'll get your commission, but they're going to take 1,000 out of your commission for the next month's draw or whatever. And then you basically get it on the back end, which to me just tells me the dealership's just playing with my money and doing what the fuck they want with it. And then I get what's left over. But since he had low payers, we're talking less than $200 a vehicle, because that's how much. So for used car salesmen, you get 20% commission off of the gross of the vehicle sales. So say they buy a vehicle for 5,000, they sell it for 10,000. 20% of that is $2,000, right? So if I'm not mistaken, right, that's like two
Yeah.
grand.
Yeah.
So that's a rare thing too. Most of the time, a dealership, especially on pre-owned, with the market being the way it was, most of the dealership was really making was like $1,000. So you get $200. That's what they call a low payer. My check was about $2,000 out of those 7 vehicles that I sold, with 1,000 taken off. So, technically it was a $3,000 that I made, you know, in that 2-week period, which not bad money, but because he only sold low paying vehicles that were under $1,000, under that $200 mark, and it only came out to like 1,000. $100 or whatever that he made gross, his check for a 2-week period was $100 because that thousand got moved to the next month.
Oh, that's crazy.
So, and the reality is, if you don't sell anything in car sales, you don't make any fucking money. Like, if you don't sell a car a day, even a low payer, which is like $200 a day, which is kind of like an average work day,
Yep,
depending on your hourly rate. But, typically between like 160 to $200 is what most people make in a day on a job.
yep,
But you can work at a dealership for 10 to 12 hours a day, not sell a freaking thing, and you didn't make any money, period.
that's crazy.
Like dealerships, especially if you're in a car salesman, is only commission based and you can literally just waste your time. Like, honestly, it just feels dirty. It feels illegal because it's like, especially dealerships that talk about all these benefits and stuff that they're going to offer you. That's if you make a sale. It's
Mm,
like, I think they should at least pay the minimum wage, 7.25 an hour, to at
yeah,
least say that you're, making money. But, and see, that's another thing too. So like they treat you like an hourly employee. You still have to clock in, clock out.
yeah.
But
That's the same thing with the restaurant industry.
yeah,
Restaurant industry, you're making 2.15 an hour and expect the customers to pay your salary by tips,
which but even that should be fucking illegal because
Yeah,
then why do we have a minimum wage of,
yeah.
7.25, which let's all agree is bullshit. 7.25 you cannot fucking survive on. And,
We just discussed it yesterday.
yeah,
I mean, come on. Lower middle class is for the 35,000 to 53,000 a year. Lower middle class, That's not even, and then that's living paycheck to paycheck, not having any type of savings. I mean, I'm considered lower middle class and, I thought I made a pretty damn good living.
but a lot of that also depends on where you live too. So like, the great exodus from, let's just say, California, fucking, because the cost of living out there is one of the highest in the country.
You're
Anybody,
considered poor making 53,000 a year.
yeah, and 100,000, you're probably lower middle class
Middle
in
class.
California.
Yeah.
Lower middle class in
Lower, yeah.
California.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Like,
crazy.
I don't know. It just feels like I understand minimum wage is, because there's an argument out there about that being enough to live on your own, which the reality is, they should really just, instead of saying minimum wage, they should call it fucking first job wage or something,
Mhm.
or, you're a kid in high school flipping burgers. But even kids in high schools flipping burgers are making $15 an hour now
Yeah.
because shit. I don't know the last time you ever ate at McDonald's, but like,
And they still get your order wrong.
and they still get it wrong. Like, shit, I remember when the dollar menu was a fucking dollar and,
Yeah.
you can get a McChicken or a McDouble for a buck,
Yeah.
which, it was kind of funny because, like, back before they changed their menu, a McDouble was a dollar, but a double
Mhm.
cheeseburger was like 2.49 or
Two
something like that.
239, yeah.
Yeah, but you're really just paying for the extra slice of fucking cheese. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, you're better off just
And then
getting a McDouble.
the drinks, all sizes for a dollar, I remember.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But now, like, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, my daughter wanted a milkshake, and I went to McDonald's. Even for a regular size milkshake, it was like $4.49, and a large fry was like $4.50 or some shit.
Hmm. Dude,
4.50.
check this out. Okay, so my daughter wanted spaghetti today, right? The packs of spaghetti were 86 cents for the cheapest ones that I found, right?
Mm-hmm.
The pack of meat was $10 for 1.88 pounds of meat. And I use Italian sausage in my spaghetti, so I paid $3 and okay. I bought some Nutella, bought some bread, bought some sandwich meat, some mayo, and that's it. That's all I bought, right? Walk out of the store with 3 bags. One of them is a bag of just the bread. $48. $48 just for making spaghetti, bro.
Well, and a lot of that too is was it the beef shortage right now, which kind of blows my mind because I'm like, if there's a shortage, why the fuck? Like, you go to McDonald's or any of these burger joints, they have fucking meat out the wazoo. So,
Yep.
not saying we're putting on our tinfoil hats here, folks, but all these theories about cloned meat and shit, like,
But seriously, you're right. I mean, look at how many McDonald's there is worldwide. Look at how many Chick-fil-A's there is. Well, Chick-fil-A supposedly owns their own farm in Georgia. Whataburger owns their own farms here in Texas. So they have their own vegetable farm, they have their own slaughter farms and all that for their animals. So I can understand businesses like that. But McDonald's, when you sell over 2 million burgers a day, 2 million a day, right? That's not even that's minimum, bare minimum. That's not even a full day's worth of meat that they sell per day. Where the hell are they getting the meat?
Yeah. It's it's a question, man. And the thing is too, like the amount of time it takes for cows to grow, which is pretty quick. I mean, you're looking at like a two-year old steer that they're gonna slaughter, or freaking heifer for the meat. But, compared to like your chickens and your pigs, I mean, because a cow's only going to give birth to like one or two calves, period. But a chicken can lay up to like what, 8 to 12 eggs of chicks,
Yeah.
and then
Can you imagine all the hormones that they're pumping these animals with if they're real animals?
yeah,
I mean, all the hormones, all the different types of chemicals that they're pumping them with just to get them to growth, and you're consuming that. I'm going to be honest with you, man. McDonald's, I haven't had McDonald's since I saw Food Inc. I don't know if you remember that movie
I haven't seen that
back
one yet.
in 2020 or 2016, 2017. I saw the movie Fooding, and they showed you how they processed the chicken nuggets, how they processed all the beef, and dude, like it's just everything is so compact into their farm that they put everything together and it's all squeezed in. All the animals are sitting there squeezed in together. They make a pink sauce out of the chicken, the remains of the chicken, their beaks, their feet, their wings, everything that's a remain that they don't sell. They make it into this nasty pink stuff and then they bleach it. They put ammonia in it and then they process it into their nuggets. Tyson's Farm was on there. There was a couple other companies that sell chicken to us now that are on there, and it's not completely what we think is, true chicken. It's just I don't know, man. I get into that. I get into that little rabbit hole, and I get into it deep. But yeah, if you want to watch it, go check out Fooding.
What's it on?
It was on Netflix. I'm not sure what it's on now. Here, let me check. See here. It shows it's on. They have it on YouTube,
Okay.
Fandango, Apple TV, and it's on Netflix. Looks like
Okay.
it's still on Netflix. So
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah.
But
I'll check that out.
so before we wrap it up, I wanted to talk a little bit about adapting to today's economy and lessen it, being that it's less than about the getting rich fast, like they always say, get rich fast schemes, stuff like that. It's not going to happen overnight, more about becoming a person to replace, finding financial flexibility and mental stability is number one thing. The economy has changed, of course. I mean, we all know costs are higher. Stable careers are less guaranteed. AI is starting to take over certain jobs. Computers are starting to take over jobs. Excuse me, you got all these self checkouts that are being pushed. So people aren't, they're not having the jobs that they're getting anymore. Amazon warehouses are moving to robotic pickers instead of people picking orders. Employers are expecting more skills for less pay. Side income is becoming normal, but it's not a stable type of income. But there's still ways to build stability, right? So building skills that are difficult to replace are certain things like, keeping jobs safe in today's society, human interaction, talking, counseling, problem solving, physical presence, leadership, and specializing in technical abilities, learning how to work on machines, putting things together, taking them apart. This whole thing with Ford and Chevy, right? They're wanting to make it illegal. They're wanting to pass a law to make it illegal for people to work on their own vehicles. That's ridiculous. What's going to happen to the parts stores? What's going to happen to, showing your kid how to change their own oil as they're growing up, changing their tire? You won't be able to show your kids that anymore. I learned that at the age of 6. You know, my dad taught me how to change oil in a car. He taught me how to wash a vehicle at the age of 7. You know, you won't be able to work on your vehicle by replacing your windshield wipers, replacing your windshield wipers all the way down to changing your oil. Come on, man.
You know why they're doing that, right?
It's control.
Well, it is control, but it's also due to the fact that car sales have drastically dropped in the
Yeah,
last 5 years because
yeah,
of, inflation, interest rates, and just overall pricing of even new vehicles. Like they're not having any real deals. Like what it is at MSRP is what they are selling it at.
but not only that, but, you know, also they're selling you crappy cars. They're
This
not
is
selling you quality anymore.
Yeah, no, it's
You know, it's more
four wheels
quantity,
and a
it's
seat.
more exactly, it's more quantity, it's more how many can I push out? How many, you know, how can I create this vehicle to break down in 2, 3 years for you for you to come in and trade your car in?
Right. And when they're not making those vehicle sales, they got to make their money somewhere. They're going to make it in the their parts department and their mechanic shops. That's how they're going to make up for the cost and shit and then upcharge on the fucking labor, which has always been expensive, but now it's going to get even worse, especially if that bill passes. So,
Yeah. Well, Trump said he wasn't gonna sign it. It has to go to the House.
yeah, but you and I both know, and if you've been watching this to this point, guys, we are more conservative than we are liberal. I'll just say that right now. But in regards to, talking too much politics on here, it's something that we don't focus on, but at the end of the day, they're the ones that have all the cards. So we gotta at least pay attention to it and not keep our heads in the sand about it. And, if there's an ability to where we can actually have some influence in the House or have some influence in the people that we elect for our state representatives, it is important that we could either go out and vote or go out and, voice our concerns with our, representatives and actually make them do their frickin' job. Make them earn the pay that they're fucking getting paid. That's all I'm going to say about it. But other than that, Mark, it's been over an hour, man. I think this is a much better session today considering everything's working now. And now that I actually have it set for my gaming laptop or gaming PC, it's going
Yeah,
to be
it
good
it
from here on out.
it worked
So
out very good today, man. So, we appreciate everybody tuning into the podcast. This conversation has helped it's helped me. I hope it's helped somebody out there, and, it gives you some perspective, what we think about. Hopefully, you're thinking about the same thing. Make sure that you share this podcast, make sure you share the post, make sure you're following us, subscribing to us on YouTube. It helps get our content out there. Plus, it helps you stay locked in for more real conversations about life, work, business, and what's happening in America today. So we appreciate y'all coming out, helping us out, watching us, and spending some time with Brandon and I. We're going to be doing a lot more of this conversation wise. I think it's more personable for us to do this type of conversation other than just reading a script or trying to follow some type of guideline. I think this is better conversation piece than what our previous podcasts have been. Even though we miss, having our other two colleagues with us, we'll definitely be putting more content out there for y'all. So appreciate y'all coming out, man. Brandon, you got anything else to add, brother?
yeah, of course. And then if anybody wants to be on the podcast as well, please let us know. You can either send us a message on any of our socials or comment in the video below expressing your interests, and we can try to get it set up. I think we're going to do this pretty regularly, at least once a week, if not twice a week, Thursdays and Fridays. We can, really get this scheduled out and maintain and keep it going, Mark, if that works for you, brother.
That works for me.
So let's keep pushing, guys, and just remember that life itself is going to have its challenges, and it's all about how we can work through them. And a lot of times, if you can't work it through it on your own, reach out. Simple as that. Reach out to
Definitely.
your friends and families because we work better together than on our own. So with that,
For sure.
guys, this is Brandon and Mark from Final Watch Veterans Foundation. Superfy, we have the watch.